Hi everyone, I'm Polly, and in this video tutorial I will be showing how to do a single crochet join as you go. And this method I've heard called a lot of different things. I've heard it called a hook out method, a pull loop through, I think it is, method. Some other ones I can't think of right now. It's a pretty popular method for joining squares. It gets a lot of love, it gets a lot of hate. Some people really love it. Some people really hate it. I've heard more love for it than I've heard hate. So I think you should check it out with me. See how I do it. See how easy it really can be. And I think you might love it. One of the things I love about this join is that it's really good for bringing squares of color together without putting a color between them. So a lot of times, you'll have some squares that you want to join, and the join method brings another color into the picture. Then you have to think about what color you want to join with. With this join, you can do either way. You can add another color at the end. So maybe I wanted to join these with some white. I can add a round of white and use that round to join these squares together. Or I can use the colors that the squares already have, and then the colors will be touching. They'll be butted up right next to each other, and there won't be any color in between them. The other thing is it gives a really, really cool looking texture. This really cool twisty looking texture that I'll show you when we demonstrate it, that really adds to your work. I think it just adds another really cool element to your work. Instead of really emphasizing the join, it just kind of brings the squares together, and then the way they come together looks really cool. So we're going to check that out. Today I'm going to be demonstrating using the same color. Now, I called this a join as you go method, but the truth is you can join whenever you want. Joining as you go is a suggestion. Some people really like to do it, some people don't. I don't really like to join as you go because that means I have to have a plan from the beginning, and I don't always have a plan from the beginning. Sometimes I make a bunch of squares and then later I decide how I want them to look. So I don't join as I go, I join at the end when I'm ready. So we're going to do that. I've already got some squares made, and I'm going to join with the same color, but not as I go. If you want to do this as you go, of course you can. You just have to have a plan first. I don't really have a plan. I just decided, you know what, I'm going to join these squares in this hypothetical situation, and I'm going to use the same color. So the only negative here is that I'm adding another round of color, or another round of the same color, so I have some more ends to weave in, but that's not really that big of a deal, right? Okay, let's get started. Before we get started, what we do want to have a plan for is how we're going to join these squares. So I have this little diagram here. Let's pretend I have 12 squares that I want to join, and I want to use this single crochet join as you go method. So what I'm going to do is grab a marker here so I can draw and show you how I plan on doing this. What I like to do when I do a single crochet join as you go is join in strips. So I always start in one corner and work my way across. So I'll work, say this is 1, this is 2, 3, and 4. Then I'll come down here and work 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I always join in this order. And the reason that I do this is because I have tried to be creative with it and join in a different order, however I felt like at the time. And what I found is I got really confused about the corners. There's a different way that I join the outside corners from the inside corners, and I would mess it up a lot. So what I learned is if I stick to the plan every time I use this join, and I use this join a lot because it's my absolute favorite, if I stick to this plan, it makes things easier. So I highly recommend, you don't have to do it exactly in this order if you want to do it in a different one. I just recommend doing one that makes sense to you and doing it the same every single time so that you don't get confused. You don't forget which corners you're joining. Okay, so now the next thing I wanted to illustrate was how the single crochet join as you go works. So what we're going to do is we're going to join by adding another round onto our squares. So my squares here already have 2 rounds on them. I'm going to add a round 3. So what I'm going to do, pretend each of these is one of my squares. I'm going to start on the outside. I like to start in the middle. I'm going to start on the outside with a round of single crochet, just basic single crochet, and I'm going to put a round on square 1, okay? So square 1 is going to have a round 3 of single crochet on it. Then I'm going to come over to round 2. Round 2, I like to start down here in the middle, and I'm going to put single crochet across this side, just that half side, single crochet across this side, then across this side, and then when I get over here, I'm going to join them. So my single crochets are going to reach out and join with these single crochets. And then I'm going to come back around and join my round 3 on that square. And then I'm going to do that all the way across. So then on square 3, I'll start down here, put single crochets here, I'll put single crochets up here, and then when I get to this side, my single crochets are going to reach out and join to the previous square's single crochets. So I'll do that all the way across here too. So that I'll go around the same way. I'll do those sides like that, and then this side will join with the previous side. Sorry, my marker skills are really bad. Okay, so that's how I'll join the first round. After that, I'm going to come down to this square, square 5, and I'm going to work similarly, but I'm going to start right here. And this will make more sense when I actually put them together. I like to do as many of the unjoined sides as possible before I join the sides. It doesn't really matter. You can start and work a half side and then do your join and then work the rest of the way around. That works fine too. I just like to do as many of the open sides first as I can, just because I think it's easier to work on one square that isn't joined. Okay. So now when we get over here, what we're going to do, start here. I'll do this half side, and then I'll do this full side of single crochet, and then we'll be at the corner. Then we're going to join this side all the way to that side, and then we're going to join this side all the way to that side, like so. And then we're just going to keep doing that down this row and then down this row. So that's just a little diagram, a little idea of how we're going to join. So you've got that idea. Now let's actually get into joining some yarn squares. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's actually join some squares. I've got my hook here. I'm using the same hook that I used to make these squares. I don't feel like I need to use a larger hook when I do this join. The same size hook has been good for doing squares. So I'm going to take my same color blue and start with square 1. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and put a round of single crochet, nothing special. Can start anywhere I want. I like to start in the middle of the square. Just going to put a round of single crochet on square 1. Okay, so I've got a round of single crochet on square 1. I'm going to cut my yarn, and I like to use an invisible join, especially for joining squares, because the stitch counts stay the same. When you slip stitch to join, you get that little slip stitch in there, and it can be really confusing when you're joining sides, and it can throw your stitch counts off, and I like to avoid that. So I do an invisible join, and that keeps all my top loops counting the right way. So I won't weave my ends in right now, but okay, so I've got a full round of single crochets on square 1. That's step 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put square 2, I'm going to connect it to square 1. So let's start with our color from square number 2, and what I like to do is, this is the side I'm going to join. I like to single crochet on all the open sides first. So I start on, we're not going to do these two yet, I start here and then work one full side, two full sides, then I join, and then I finish the last few stitches of the first side that I started on. So I'm going to start down here. I like to start right in the middle, and I'm going to do this first half of side 1. I do single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. That's just my normal corner when I'm doing single crochets. Now I'm going to work single crochets all the way down the next 2 sides. Okay, so I'm just going to scooch those out of the way for now. I want you to see this. So I started down here with a single crochet. I worked this half side, worked this full side, and I worked all the stitches across this side. Now I have one full side open, and then I have just these last few stitches of the first side that I'll do at the end. This is the side I'm going to join to square 1. So I've worked each stitch, now I'm at the corner. Here's how I like to do the corners, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I found this way gives me a really nice edge, and it keeps it really quite straight, and I like that. So even if you didn't want to put a border on, if you wanted to block these squares, get them nice and straight, this gives a really nice edge even if you don't want to put a border on. I will show you how to address the edge if you do want to put a border on, because most of the time most people do. But if you didn't, if you wanted something really color blocked and just really angular, no borders, nothing holding it in, just blocks of color, you could definitely use this method. Okay, so here I am with square 2 in the corner. What I want to do is make my first single crochet in the corner chain 2 space. Then I'm going to chain 1. Okay, just 1. Now what I want you to do is pull the loop up just a little bit so it doesn't fall out and remove your hook. Okay, now come over to any side of square 1. I'm going to pick the side where the join is not, just to keep things simple. And I'm going to change my angle a little because I'm going to be working up that way. So I have my first corner stitch done. I have a chain 1. I've taken my hook out, and I'm going to insert my hook from the top into the chain space, the chain 2 space corner of any side of square 1. Then I'm going to put my loop back on my hook, and actually I put it in the wrong way. There we go. Make sure the yarn is coming out. See how the working yarn comes up the front and then it goes over the back? Make sure that you put your hook on the right way. When you put it back in the loop, you put it on the right way. You don't want to twist it the other way. Okay, then I pull it so it's tight again on my hook, and then I pull that through the chain 2 space. Then chain 1 again. Okay, so now our chain 2 spaces are joined. Now you can go back to your round 2 chain space and make your second single crochet of the corner. Okay, so we just joined corners. That's an outside corner. So when we do all 4 squares, they're going to be joined like this. So that's how you did an outside corner. When you do the inside corners, they're going to be different. So that is only for an outside corner. Okay, now let's look at working down the side. So let's go back to where we were. Okay, we had just done our single crochet, our second single crochet of the corner. So a full corner is single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So what we did was we did 1 single crochet in the corner. That's on the outside edge. Then we did a chain 1. We pulled the loop through the corresponding chain 2 space around of square 1, and then we chained 1, and we made another single crochet in the corner. So see how we just kind of hooked those 2 chain 2 spaces together? Okay, now what we want to do is actually take that loop, pull it up, and hold it. I like to pinch it with my yarn hand and hold it in place. And then I insert my hook into the corresponding stitch. So the stitch I just made, I want to find the corresponding one on the other square. So the very first single crochet on this side of the square corresponds with the very first single crochet on this side of square 2 that I just made. So I'm going to insert my hook into the very first single crochet and pull this loop through. So something that may be a little confusing, but you're going to have to trust me on, is make this stitch first and then you pull the loop through the corresponding stitch, okay? Make the stitch first, then pull the loop through the corresponding stitch. If you're really comfortable with stitch anatomy, you know that the loop I just pulled through is actually going to be the top 2 loops of the next stitch. Don't let that confuse you. Just trust me on this one. I have tried it the other way and it makes everything crooked. So just trust me. You make the stitch, then you pull the loop through the corresponding stitch. So I've pulled the loop through the corresponding stitch. Now I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch of round 2, just regular single crochet. I'm going to pull that loop up and pinch it with my yarn hand, pull my hook out, find the corresponding stitch on the next square, insert my hook under the top 2 loops, put the loop back on my hook, and pull it through. And just going to keep doing that all the way across. So I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch of square 2, pinch the loop and pull my hook out, insert my hook into the corresponding stitch of square 1, put the loop back on my hook, and pull it through. Okay, I know this seems like a lot of work, but once you get the groove down, it actually goes quite fast. So single crochet, remove the loop, insert my hook, put the loop back on, pull it through. And then you just do this all the way down the side. And once you get the groove down, it's really kind of fast. Maybe not as fast as a normal single crochet join, but it's pretty fast. Okay, so here's my last stitch on this side of round 2, but I have 2 stitches left on square 1. So this one goes into this stitch here. The reason I have 2 stitches left, and I always get confused, is because I haven't made my corner yet. So I'm going to make my first corner single crochet, and then remove that loop and pull that through the last stitch of square 1. And that's the full side joined. Okay, now to handle this corner, because this is going to be an inside corner, what I'm actually going to do is simply chain 2 and then single crochet in my square 2 corner space, and then I'll finish my single crochets, my round of single crochets. So those corners I actually do not join at all. Let me fasten this off and then I'll show you. Okay, so those corners I do not join at all. There's a chain 2 space right here from square 1 that's totally open, and a chain 2 space from square 2 that's totally open. I don't join the inside corners on side to side. We're going to join them diagonally, so I'll show you that next. But here's the joined outside corners. Those are going to be on the outside, and these are going to be on the inside. This is why I like to have a good plan in place ahead of time. So these go like this. So they're going to be joined like that. So these are inside corners, side by side are not joined. Outside corners, side by side, are joined. Okay, so let me go ahead and weave this end in, and then I'll show you square 3. Okay, so we're going to do our layout like this. So this green one is square 3. So let me grab my green yarn. So we'll set the periwinkle aside for now. And what I like to do for square 3, I'm only joining this side of square 3 to this side of square 1. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to work half a side of single crochet and then 2 full sides of single crochet just to start my round off. It doesn't really matter where you start for your single crochets. If you prefer getting the join out of the way earlier, you can start here and then just work your second side as your join and then finish up your round of single crochet. It doesn't really matter. I like to get as much single crochet out of the way as possible because then I don't have to manhandle quite as many joined squares, especially when you get a lot of them joined. So I'm going to put on this first half side and then single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner, and then I'm going to single crochet down 2 full sides. Okay, so I put 2.5 sides of single crochet on. I've got this one side totally open. Now I'm going to join this open side to this first side of round 1, but I'm also going to join the inside corners. So, like I said, I like to do the inside corners diagonally. So here's how we do that. Square 3 is going to be joined diagonally to square 2. Square 1 is going to be joined diagonally to square 4. Okay, just in the corners, and then the sides will be normal. So here's how we do that. I've done each stitch down this side of square 3. I'm going to do my single crochet, first single crochet in the corner, chain 2 space. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to take my hook and insert it into the chain 2 space of the corner I want to join for square 2. Put the loop back on my hook, pull it through the chain 2 space, and chain 1. So it's similar to the way that we join the corners up here on this outside edge, except that we're going diagonally. Okay, so after I've done that, then I'll go back to my round, or my square 3, and make the second single crochet of my corner. That's how you join the corner, just like that. So I like to do them diagonally. Okay, now I'm going to pull this loop up. This is my first single crochet of the side, so I'm going to find the first single crochet of this side of square 1. It's this one right here. Be careful not to get the chain 2 space. Get the very first single crochet, insert your hook under the top 2 loops of that first single crochet. Put your square 3 yarn, square 3 yarn, put the loop back on your hook and then pull it through. Okay, then make your second single crochet, which goes into the very first stitch of that side. Make your single crochet, pull the loop up, find the second stitch of this side of square 1, insert your hook under the 2 loops, put the loop back on, and pull it through. And then just work that way all the way across the side. So if you watch my hands, you'll see my tension. I've done this a lot. So you see my pointer finger over here is holding my yarn up. As I pull the loop of yarn up, my pointer finger comes down to pinch the loop. Then I insert my hook into the other square, put the loop back on my hook, and as my pointer finger comes up, it readjusts the tension on my hook, and I can pull it right through. So that's sort of the little tension issue I figured out that helps me speed along when I do this join, and it keeps the hook it out part from being really tedious. It's actually like nothing to me now. I've done it so much, and I've got this little system down. My hands are very used to it, so if you stick with it a little while, I think it gets a lot easier. Okay, so I've done each stitch down the side. I'm going to do my single crochet in the corner chain 2 space, and pull this through the very last stitch on this side of round 1. Now this is an outside corner, so what I'm going to do is chain 1, and then I'm going to find that chain 2 space on the outside corner and pull the loop through, and then chain 1 again, and then make my next single crochet in my square 3 corner, and then finish off my single crochets down this side. Let's weave that end in, and we'll take a look at what we've got so far. And if you want to see a tutorial on an invisible join, I have one on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to explain the invisible join here, so look up that tutorial if you want to see me do that. Okay, so we've got 3 squares joined now. We've got really nice corner joins on the outside, and we've joined the corners diagonally between square 2 and square 3 on the inside, and square 1 doesn't look so great yet, but it'll look better when we join square 4. Okay, let's get square 4 here in the picture. We're going to put square 4 right in here. So what I'm going to do is start with some single crochet down here, and I'm going to work 1 full side of single crochet. So I'll do a half side and a full side, and then the next 2 full sides we're going to join. Okay, so here is my color for square 4, and you can start anywhere really, it's not a big deal. So I'm going to start down here by my join. Okay, now for square 4, now normally this square would be, I might be putting more on the outside, so I might be doing an inside join, so be really cautious of where your corner joins are going. If they're going to be an outside join, you want to join like an outside join. If they're going to be an inside join, you want to join like an inside join. So be very careful when you're putting these together that you join the corners correctly. Okay, so this one I'm just doing 4 squares, so this is going to be an outside join. I've worked my single crochet across the first side, across this little half side, and then my first full side. Now I'm going to single crochet in the corner chain 2 space, chain 1, and then find the corresponding corner, because this is an outside corner. Find the corresponding corner around of square 2, insert my hook in that chain 2 space, put the loop from square 4 back on and pull it through, and then chain 1. After that, single crochet again in your round or your square 4 corner chain 2 space. So now we've got that outside corner joined. Now we can join just regular single crochet join down the side. So I'm going to take the loop off my hook from the first single crochet, find the first single crochet from square 2, insert my hook under those loops, pull it through, and then just work like we have for all the other sides all the way down this side of square 2. Okay, so here's my last stitch, not my last stitch, but second to last stitch. Now I'm going to do my stitch in the corner chain 2 space, which corresponds to the last stitch of square 2. Put the loop back on, pull it through. Okay, now I'm ready for my corner join. I'm going to chain 1, hold that loop, insert my hook very carefully into the chain 2 space from square 1. It can be easy to get the wrong loops, so be really careful that you find that chain 2 space, put the loop back on your hook, pull it through, chain 1, and then you can go back to your single crochet in the chain 2 space of square 4. Sorry, my yarn is a little tangly over here. I keep having to pull it out. Okay, so there's my first single crochet on this side of square 4. So now I can find, and it's a little twisty, so this one's kind of hard to see, but it's there. Find the corresponding stitch from this square, and then just work the same way down this side of these 2 squares. Oops. Okay, here's my last couple stitches of the side. I'm going to make my single crochet in the corner chain 2 space, and that corresponds to the very last single crochet on this side. Pull that loop through. This is an outside corner, so I'm going to chain 1 and then find the corner chain 2 space, pull that through, chain 1 again, and go back and single crochet across the rest of the square. Okay, now let's fasten this off. Get our little invisible join going. Okay, there we go. So that's 4 squares all joined, and we've got these really nice joins along the edges. You can see it's got this really cool texture. You see how the colors sort of blend right along the middle. It's really cool texture. And we have no extra join color. Our colors are butting up right next to each other. Cool texture in the middle, kind of looks like a little twisty rope. And that is how you join all your corners for a single crochet join as you go, with using the same color as your squares. Now the last thing I wanted to show you is how to work single crochets or any stitches across the edge of these joined single crochet joined together squares. So I'm going to go up a hook size. I find it's a little better for this type of join. I'm usually ready to go up a hook size when I've joined something with this join, for the border I mean. So I'm just going to imagine I'm putting on a border of just plain single crochet. I'm not going to worry about stitch counts right now. Depending on your border pattern, you're going to need a certain stitch count. I'm not going to worry about that. That's a different topic. For this join, we're just going to put on basic single crochet to see how it goes. So I'm just going to start over here and just start putting some single crochet along the side so we can get an idea of how it looks. Okay, so I'm single crocheting each stitch across the side, and now I've come to where I've joined my 2 squares. What I want to do is put a single crochet in the corner chain 2 space of this square. And then this isn't always super easy, but I like to grab just 1 or 2 loops, usually like 2 loops, from where the stitches are joined. So right in the middle, I only got 1 there, let me get 2. Right in the middle, I like to put a stitch. Now, and yes, it is almost always this frustrating. So thankfully there's only a couple places you have to do it. And you only have to do it this one round. Okay, there we go. So I grabbed a couple loops from there. I like to put a stitch there because I feel like it really needs a stitch there. Then I single crochet in the next chain 2 corner. And then I keep going across. That stitch in the middle, hold on one second and I'll show you. Let me get across the side so we get a good idea of what it looks like. Okay, so I feel like that stitch that I put very not gracefully into a couple loops from the join is really important for the width of my stitches. If I put 1 in this chain space and 1 in this chain space, it's just not quite enough and they pull across. And I just am not getting quite enough width. If for stitch counts you need to leave out 1 stitch, you can leave that one out. It might pull a little bit, but if you only do it on maybe 1 of these joins because you just need to get rid of 1 stitch, that's a good place to get rid of 1 stitch. But if we're not worrying about stitch counts, let's pretend like we're not worrying about stitch counts. I really prefer doing it this way. So I do a single crochet in each stitch, a single crochet in the chain 2 corner, a single crochet in whatever 2 loops I can grab towards the top of the joining stitches, another single crochet in this chain corner, and then single crochets across. That is how I like to do the edge for a single crochet join as you go. So anyway, that is the single crochet join as you go. I hope you found this tutorial really helpful, and I hope you give this method a try. I really love it. It's my favorite. It gets really fast when you get good at it, and it's so much easier than people think it's going to be. Taking your hook out seems like a big deal, but once you get the groove, it's really not that big of a deal. I love this join because of the way it feels. It's so natural. It lays really flat. You can see there's no ridge at all. A lot of people don't like getting a ridge when they join, and this method is really flat. No ridge. You have this cool texture in the middle. I know a lot of people, I get a lot of good reviews about the texture that this creates. It looks really cool. It looks fantastic in one color. So if you do decide that you want a join color in between, using another color makes it look really, it's just a really nice texture. You don't get the two colors blending, you just have the one doing a ropey texture down the middle of your squares, and it's really cool looking. It's really stretchy. It's not tight at all. It feels just like all your other stitches, so you don't feel the join at all. It's a really nice technique. I highly recommend it. I always recommend it first and foremost because it's my favorite join. So I hope you give it a try. I hope you love it, and that's it. Have fun with it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful.